I know, I know. You're probably sitting there thinking, a penny? Worth $1 million? No way. Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into a coin that'll make you look at those pennies in your pocket a little differently. Have you ever heard of the 2014 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny? If you haven't, you're in for a wild ride. And if you have, well, get ready to have your mind blown. I'm about to reveal why this little coin could potentially make you a millionaire. Yes, you heard that right, $1 million for a penny. It's not a joke. So, grab your magnifying glass, dust off those coin jars, and let's figure out if you might have this treasure hiding in plain sight. Now, before you rush to your couch cushions looking for forgotten change, let's break down what makes this penny so special. The 2014 penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, but here's the twist. It doesn't have a mint mark. Normally, pennies are stamped with a mint mark, that little letter on the coin that tells you where it was made. You've got your D for Denver and your P for Philadelphia, right? But in 2014, the US Mint made a few pennies without any mint mark at all. How does that happen? Well, folks, sometimes mistakes get made in the minting process, and instead of a stamp of D or P, the penny just rolls off the press with no mark. Think of it like ordering a pizza with extra cheese and getting the wrong order. Except, in this case, the wrong order could make you a millionaire. Even though it's just a regular-looking penny, the fact that it has no mint mark makes it incredibly rare and valuable to collectors. We're talking about a coin that, in some cases, has sold for up to $1 million. Yep, you heard that right. $1 million for a penny. I bet you're wishing you hadn't tossed that handful of pennies in the jar for laundry money now. But hold on, don't rush off to eBay just yet. It's not every 2014 penny that's worth that kind of dough. The value of a coin like this depends on a few key factors. If your penny looks like it's been through the wash and has seen better days, it's not going to fetch $1 million. The closer it is to a mint condition, the more valuable it becomes. There are a lot of fakes out there, so if you're thinking of selling your no mint mark penny, make sure it's the real deal. Get it checked by a professional coin dealer or send it to the experts at the Numismatic Society for certification. While the 2014 no mint mark penny is rare, it's still a niche item. Not every coin collector is looking for one, but for the right buyer, it's worth a serious chunk of change. A few years ago, I stumbled upon a coin my grandmother had kept in a dusty old jar. Now, mind you, I thought this thing was just another random penny, probably from 1965 or something. I decided to take a look through a magnifying glass for fun, and lo and behold, there it was, no mint mark. My heart raced as I thought, could it be? Turns out, it wasn't the $1 million coin, but hey, I did get a good laugh and an interesting story out of it. The moral of the story is, you never know what treasures are sitting right in front of you until you start looking. Alright, so you've learned a bit about this rare and valuable 2014 no mint mark penny, but don't go spending it all in one place just yet. If you think you might have one of these coins, or if you're just starting to dive into the world of rare coins, here's what I recommend. Take your time, do some research, and maybe even get a few coins professionally appraised. You never know when you could stumble across the next big thing in the world of coin collecting. And hey, if you've got a couple of pennies laying around, it wouldn't hurt to check, right? Now, if you enjoyed today's deep dive into this $1 million penny and want more tips on rare coins, collecting strategies, or how to find hidden gems in your change jar, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've got tons of content lined up to help you turn your hobby into a potential fortune. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and remember, the next time you find a penny on the ground, you might just be picking up a millionaire's ticket. You won't believe the coin I'm about to talk about today. It's got an unexpected twist that might just blow your mind. Picture this. You're strolling through a flea market, or maybe cleaning out some old stuff from your attic, and you stumble upon a penny. A penny, and not just any penny. It's a 1967 Abraham Lincoln penny without a mint mark. I know. At first glance, it sounds about as exciting as finding a forgotten peanut butter sandwich in the back of your fridge. But trust me, this penny could be worth $1.1 million. That's right, a freaking $1 million. Now, before you go rummaging through every penny jar in your house, let's dive into the details of this rare gem and why it's worth more than most of us will see in our bank accounts in a lifetime. And let me warn you, It's going to be a wild ride. So buckle up. Let me break it down for you. A typical 1967 Lincoln penny is a dime a dozen, right? They're made of copper-plated zinc, and unless it's got a crazy cool mistake or rare feature, it's worth maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 cents, if that. But then, here's where things get really interesting. The 1967 penny without a mint mark is a mystery. You see, all pennies produced by the U.S. Mint usually have a mint mark, either AD for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or none for Philadelphia. But for some unknown reason, some 1967 pennies were struck without any mint mark. And that, my friends, is where the treasure hunt begins. So why is this particular penny worth so much? Well, it's because of rarity. You know how people love collecting things that are scarce, right? Think of it like this. Imagine finding a limited edition action figure from your childhood, one that only 3 people in the world own. That's what this penny is in the coin world. It's not just rare. It's practically a unicorn. Now, you're probably wondering, how the heck did this happen? Great question. It's believed that the 1967 no-mint mark pennies were minted at the Philadelphia Mint, but the mint forgot to put the P, the mark for Philadelphia, on them. They made a mistake, and this little mistake turned into a golden opportunity for collectors and investors. Because these errors were never meant to happen, there are only a handful of them left in existence. And when you've got something that rare, the price tag tends to go through the roof. Imagine you're flipping through some coins in your pocket and you find a 1967 penny with no mint mark. You might think, whatever, it's just a penny. But hold up. That small, unassuming penny could end up being worth more than some of the rarest cars on the market today. In fact, the highest known sale for a 1967 penny without a mint mark hit $1.1 million at auction. Yep, you read that right. And I'm not talking about a perfect, uncirculated one. Just a regular coin, possibly with a little wear and tear, fetched over $1 million. So if you've got a 1967 penny lying around, take a closer look. You might just be sitting on a small fortune. But here's the catch. Not every 1967 penny without a mint mark is worth $1 million. In fact, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. If you find one and it's covered in dirt, scratches, or, I don't know, ketchup stains, good luck. The ones that fetch big money are the ones that are in near-perfect condition. So condition is key. Let me share a quick personal story about how I learned just how valuable some of these seemingly ordinary coins can be. A few years ago, I was cleaning out my old childhood piggy bank. Don't judge me, it's a classic move. I pulled out a bunch of coins, mostly junk, but then, nestled under some nickels and dimes, I found a 1955 penny. It wasn't a 1967, but it caught my attention because it was a double-die penny. I didn't know much about it, but something told me to check it out. Fast forward a few weeks, and I ended up selling it for more than I paid for my first car. I couldn't believe it. It's funny, because that moment taught me the importance of doing a little research before writing off a coin. So, when I say you might have a 1967 no-mint mark penny worth a small fortune, trust me, you don't want to let it slip through your fingers. The 1967 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny is one of the rarest coins out there, and if you happen to find one in great condition, it could be worth over $1 million. It's a treasure hunt, my friends, one that starts with just a quick glance at your change jar or an old coin collection you've got gathering dust. Now, if you're getting excited about finding coins that could make you a millionaire, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join me for more tips on rare coins and how to spot hidden treasures in your collection. I've got plenty more coin stories, and I'm here to help you figure out which pennies, dimes, and quarters might just make you the next big coin collector. You ever looked at your spare change and thought, could one of these be worth millions? I know, sounds too good to be true, right? But stick with me, because today we're diving into a coin that, if you've got it lying around, could have you living large. That's right, we're talking about the 1978 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Now, if you're like me, you probably have a collection of pennies stuck in a drawer somewhere, right next to those rubber bands, old receipts, and expired coupons. Well, what if I told you that one of those pennies could be worth a whopping $1.2 million? Yes, you heard me, million with an M. Grab your magnifying glass or just squint really hard. Because we're about to unravel the mystery of the 1978 no-mint mark penny and how it went from just another penny, to $1 million treasure? Great question. Let's break it down. Typically, U.S. pennies are minted in one of three places: Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. And to show where they were made, each coin will have a tiny little mint mark right next to Abraham Lincoln's shoulder. It's either a D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or nothing at all if it's from Philadelphia. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Most 1978 pennies have either a D or nothing at all, which means Philly. But the key player here is the absence of that mint mark. The 1978 penny with no mint mark is extremely rare, and there's only a small handful of them that have made it to the public eye. Well, the 1978 no mint mark penny is a minting error. You see, these pennies were supposed to have a mint mark, but for some reason, a small batch of them didn't. And because there are so few of them, they're incredibly valuable to collectors. Imagine finding a penny that's almost the same as all the other ones, but it's like finding a diamond in a sea of pebbles. It's rare, it's unique, and it could be worth big bucks. And I mean, seriously big bucks. Let me tell you a personal story. A few years ago, I was sifting through some old coin jars in my basement, hoping to find something worth a little extra cash. I didn't expect much. I was just looking for some pocket change. But then, I pulled out this 1978 penny. It looked pretty normal, but I was curious. So, I grabbed my magnifying glass, yes, I'm that into coins, and noticed something strange. No mint mark. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could I have stumbled upon one of these elusive coins? Well, turns out, mine wasn't the valuable one. But I'll tell you, the hope I felt in that moment? Priceless. But for those who do manage to find one of these rare pennies, you might be sitting on a small fortune. In fact, one 1978 no mint mark penny sold for over $1.2 million. That's not a typo. $1.2 million. Just because your penny doesn't have a mint mark doesn't mean it's worth that much. These coins need to be in really good condition. We're talking about coins in mint condition. Shiny, no wear, no scratches. And of course, the rarity and the story behind it all play a big part. So, don't go thinking every 1978 penny you find is a gold mine. But hey, check it out. You never know. Alright, before you start rating your coin jars and looking through every penny you own, let's recap. The 1978 no mint mark penny is rare, valuable, and could fetch you a small fortune if you find one in pristine condition. But, as with any treasure hunt, it's all about the luck of the draw. If you've got a few pennies hanging around that you've been neglecting, maybe it's time to give them a closer look. And who knows? That forgotten penny might just be the ticket to your next big windfall. Now, before you go off and start scanning your pennies, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I've got loads of tips on other rare coins, strategies for spotting hidden gems, and ways to build your coin collection. Plus, I promise, I'll keep bringing you all the info you need to get your hands on the next big find. You don't want to miss it. Did you ever think you could be sitting on a small fortune just by looking through your change jar? Well, grab that old coffee mug full of pennies, because today we're talking about a very special coin, the 1989 Lincoln penny. But hold on to your seats, because this one doesn't have a mint mark. That's right, no mint mark, and it's currently worth up to $1.30 million. I know, you probably just spit out your coffee, but stick with me for the next 30 minutes as we dive into what makes this penny so valuable and how you can spot one if you're lucky. So let's break this down. Why would a 1989 penny, which is nearly identical to millions of others, be worth over $1 million? You see, in 1989, the US Mint made a very odd decision. They accidentally released some pennies without the mint mark. Normally, every coin made by the US Mint has a mint mark on it, either D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or no mint mark for Philadelphia. But in 1989, a handful of pennies slipped through the cracks without that little letter, and that's what makes them so valuable. Now, before you start running to your coin jar and shaking it like a lottery ticket, let me clarify something. These pennies are incredibly rare. You might find a 1989 penny in your pocket, but a no mint mark version? Well, that's like finding a unicorn in your backyard. Not impossible, but highly unlikely. These rare no mint mark pennies were discovered after the fact by eagle-eyed collectors, and once they were identified, the value skyrocketed. The current market value for one of these little guys can be as high as $1.3 million. That's right. A penny that you might have once tossed in the parking lot could now pay for a small car, a vacation, or if you're like me, a very fancy coffee maker, the one with all the bells and whistles. Let me tell you a quick story to bring this all home. A couple of years ago, I was going through a box of coins my grandma passed down to me. There were a lot of old pennies in there. Some were shiny, some were worn down to practically nothing, but I kept them all because, they might be worth something someday. One day, I was watching a YouTube video on rare coins, and the host mentioned something about a 1989 penny with no mint mark. Well, my heart skipped a beat. I rushed to my box, pulled out the 1989 pennies, and started inspecting them like a detective on a case. Guess what? None of mine had the mint mark missing, but the excitement was real. I thought, hey, what if I find one of those rare ones? I'll be living the high life. Sadly, no jackpot that day, but it taught me something valuable. Check your change. You never know when you might stumble upon something that could change your financial future. Now, let's talk about how to spot one of these bad boys. If you've got a 1989 penny, don't just toss it aside. Give it a quick inspection. Look carefully under the date for that mint mark. If it's missing entirely, you might have a coin worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. But don't get too carried away yet. You'll want to check its condition too, because just like with any valuable collectible, the quality matters. A penny that's been through the ringer is not going to fetch a high price, even if it's a rare variety. Another thing to keep in mind is authentication. If you think you've found a rare penny, you can always take it to a professional grader. They'll tell you if your coin is the real deal or just a regular penny that's seen better days. And don't be fooled by fakes. There are counterfeit coins out there, so make sure you're dealing with the real McCoy before you start dreaming of your new millionaire lifestyle. To recap, the 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is a rare and valuable coin. And if you're lucky enough to find one, it could be worth a small fortune. But remember, you've got to check your pennies carefully, look for that mint mark, or lack thereof, and make sure the condition of the coin is up to snuff. If you find one, get it authenticated, and who knows? You might just have a $1.3 million penny on your hands. Always check your change. I can't tell you how many times I've thought, that penny isn't worth anything, only to hear about someone selling one for millions. It's all about the hunt, the thrill, and the chance that your next coin could make you a small fortune. So if you enjoyed this wild ride into the world of rare coins, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. I've got more tips and tricks coming your way about coins worth money, how to spot them, and what to do if you find one. You won't believe what I just stumbled upon. A coin that could be sitting in your pocket, in your jar of change, or even buried in your coin collection, worth a jaw-dropping $1.4 million. I know, you're probably thinking, $1.4 million? For a coin? Trust me, it's not a typo. Grab your magnifying glasses and let's dive into the mystery of the 1968 Abraham Lincoln penny. Now, this isn't your average penny. No. We're talking about a coin that could potentially change your life forever, if you happen to have the right one. And yes, I'm going to explain how it works, how to spot it, and maybe even how you can make some serious cash if luck is on your side. Stay tuned because by the end of this video, you might just run to your coin jar. You know those pennies, right? The ones that seem to just multiply in your pocket, or that random jar you keep in the kitchen, filled with coins that don't matter? Well, sometimes those pennies hold secrets that can make you a lot richer than you think. And we're going to focus on one penny in particular today, the 1968 Lincoln penny. Now, before you're like, I've got a ton of those in my jar, no big deal, let me stop you right there. This specific penny is not your average coin. It's actually a proof coin, and it's special because of a small mistake that happened in the minting process. And let me tell you, sometimes those mistakes are gold, or in this case, millions of dollars. In 1968, the U.S. Mint accidentally produced a small batch of proof Lincoln pennies that were intended to be minted with a S mint mark, marking them as coming from the San Francisco Mint. However, the mint mark got smeared, or in some cases, just wasn't visible at all. The result? A mistake coin that ended up being worth a small fortune today. And, of course, the market is going crazy over these rare gems, so let me give you a little breakdown of how this all works. If you have a 1968 penny that looks a little different, don't just toss it into the change jar. If you find one with the S mint mark that's either faint, filled in, or just not there at all, well, you could be holding on to a little slice of numismatic heaven. The most valuable 1968 S penny sold for about $1.4 million in an auction. That's right. Someone out there turned a coin that cost them 1 cent into over $1 million. It sounds like a fairy tale, right? But it's true. Let's make this real. I want to tell you a quick story from my own life. A few years ago, I went through a phase where I was obsessed with collecting coins. You know, the typical, I'm gonna find a rare coin, retire young kind of dream. I was out there hunting for anything interesting in my loose change, and one day, I stumbled upon a 1969 penny. I wasn't exactly a pro at this back then, so I didn't even think to double check. I tossed it into my meh pile. Fast forward a few months, and I'm watching a video similar to this one, and they're talking about the rare 1969 S penny. My heart sank. My brain went into full panic mode. I rushed to my stash of pennies like a mad scientist and searched for that elusive coin. I didn't find one, but it did get me hooked on the world of coin hunting. So, here's the important takeaway. If you have a 1968 S penny, or honestly, any coin that seems unusual or has that mint mark, don't just throw it away or stash it with the rest of your change. It could be worth way more than you think. Now, I know, the odds of finding that 1968 S penny worth millions are pretty slim. But hey, who doesn't love a good treasure hunt? And while you might not find the next $1 million coin, you never know. Maybe your next flip through the change jar will uncover the next big thing. If you found this video helpful and want more tips on coins that could be worth money, or if you just want to hear more stories about my wild coin hunting adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be bringing you more tips, tricks, and coin secrets every week. And hey, maybe in a few months, I'll be talking about how you found the next $1 million penny. Wouldn't that be wild? You won't believe what I'm about to share with you today. I bet most of you probably have a pocket full of pennies sitting in a jar somewhere, just gathering dust, right? Well, grab that jar because today we're talking about the 1985 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. And let me tell you, this little copper treasure could be worth a whopping $1.5 million. Yes, you heard that right. $1.5 million for a penny. Stick with me, because we're diving into the history, the value, and even how you could cash in on this crazy coin. Now, before you go rummaging through your couch cushions or scouring through your old coin collection, let me set the stage. You're probably thinking, a penny is a penny, right? Well, not always. While most pennies from 1985 are worth, well, a penny, some of them are worth way more. Specifically, those elusive 1985 pennies without a mint mark. But first, let's talk a little bit about what a mint mark is. For most coins, there's a small letter near the date that indicates where the coin was made. For pennies, it's typically located under Abraham Lincoln's statue on the reverse side of the coin. Most of the time, you'll see an D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But in 1985, something very strange happened. Some pennies were made without a mint mark at all. These are the ones we're after. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, it's all about rarity. These no mint mark pennies were never supposed to exist. They were struck in Philadelphia, but the mint forgot to add the P mint mark. Not a huge deal at the time. But now? Well, you've got a coin that's as rare as a unicorn at a rodeo. The current market value of these 1985 no mint mark pennies is reaching as high as $1.5 million. That's right, for a coin that most of us have casually tossed aside as spare change. Makes you think twice, huh? But before you get too excited and start flipping over every penny you see, let me just say this. Finding one of these isn't like finding a $100 bill in the street. These coins are super rare. In fact, only a small number of them were ever made. Experts believe that there are only a handful still in existence today, and if you manage to find one in pristine condition, you could be holding on to a small fortune. Now, how do you know if you've got one of these valuable pennies? No mint mark. As simple as it sounds, check for the mint mark. If there's none, you could have a gold mine on your hands. Condition? The better the condition, the higher the value. A penny that's shiny and nearly perfect is worth way more than one that's been through the ringer. The date. Make sure it's from 1985. It might seem obvious, But sometimes we get caught up in the excitement and forget the details. So, let's say you found one. Now what? Well, first things first, don't go rushing to a coin dealer and try to haggle like you're at a yard sale. It's important to get the coin authenticated by a professional grader. This will ensure that your penny is the real deal and not some trick of the light or a badly struck error coin. Once authenticated, it's time to start shopping it around. Coin auctions, private dealers, or collectors' shows. These are all great places to get the best value for your penny. But remember, patience is key. You don't want to sell too early and end up leaving money on the table. Speaking of leaving money on the table, let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I found a random old penny while I was cleaning out my car. It was just sitting there in the cup holder, looking lonely and a little dirty. I almost tossed it in the trash, but something told me to hold on to it. Maybe it was my inner coin nerd, or maybe just pure luck. Fast forward a few weeks, and I decided to check it out. Turns out, it was a 1943 copper penny, another rare coin. It wasn't worth $1.5 million, but I did end up selling it for a decent amount. And let me tell you, the feeling of finding something valuable in your own car is pretty darn awesome. Moral of the story? Never underestimate the power of a penny. So, what does all this mean for you? Well, next time you're going through your change or sorting through that jar of pennies, take a second to check for any 1985 no mint mark coins. It might just be your lucky day. And if you find one, remember, it's not just a penny. It could be your ticket to a small fortune. Before you run off to hunt for your own $1 million coin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm always sharing tips on rare coins, how to spot valuable finds, and strategies to build your collection. Plus, who doesn't want to stay updated on how to make money with your pocket change? Trust me, you don't want to miss out. You're probably sitting there, flipping through your spare change, thinking it's all just junk. But what if I told you that one tiny penny from 1980 could make you a millionaire? That's right, a penny worth $1.6 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, there's no way. But trust me, if you have a 1980 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Today, we're diving into the world of rare coins, uncovering the secret behind this super rare penny, and, who knows, you might just find that you've been unknowingly sitting on a gold mine. Or should I say, a penny mine? So, grab your magnifying glass and let's get into it. All right, let's break this down. So, here's the deal. In 1980, most of the pennies that were minted had a little mint mark. It's that tiny letter stamped on the coin that tells you where it was made. In 1980, most pennies had a mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint, that's the P. However, there's a rare anomaly. A select few pennies were made in 1980 without that mint mark. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who cares about a missing mint mark? Isn't it just a tiny thing? And that's where the magic happens. See, coin collectors love rare mistakes, and this little missing mint mark is one of those oops moments that creates a massive opportunity. This particular 1980 penny, missing its mint mark, is incredibly rare. So rare that a collector was willing to pay $1.6 million for it. Yep, you heard me right. $1.6 million for a single penny. Now, if you're like me, you probably had a few pennies laying around the house that you thought were worth nothing, right? I know I've tossed more than my fair share of old pennies into the jar in the corner of my kitchen, but imagine going through that jar and finding a 1980 no mint mark penny. Suddenly, you're calling your bank, scheduling a meeting with a coin appraiser, and getting your very own penny for your thoughts and your bank account. If you're looking through your pennies, don't just focus on the mint mark. Check the date and look for any other weird markings or variations. Collectors go wild for those small differences. Now, I'm going to level with you for a second. I have a personal story. A few years ago, I was at a flea market and saw an old man selling bags of pennies for $1. I picked up a bag, thinking I was going to find a few cool vintage ones, maybe some older wheat pennies, or at least get some good karma from helping out a fellow human. Anyway, I went home, dumped the bag out, and started sorting through the pennies like a mad scientist. To my surprise, I found a 1943 steel penny in there. Not quite the $1.6 million penny, but definitely worth more than what I paid. I couldn't believe it, so I rushed to an appraiser. Long story short, that penny was worth about $30, and that taught me the value of checking my change before I toss it out. Now, let's talk about what makes this 1980 Nomit Mark penny so special. It's not just the rarity of the minting error, but the fact that there are so few of them left in circulation. In fact, some collectors have spent years hunting for one. The condition of the coin is also a huge factor in determining its value. The ones that are in mint condition, shiny, no scratches, no corrosion, are worth a lot more. That's why if you find one of these pennies, you want to get it appraised ASAP and keep it in the best condition possible. Some people even send them off to be graded by professional coin graders, which helps determine the value and gives you a certificate of authenticity. That's when things get real serious. All right, folks, you've heard the story, you've learned the value, and now it's your turn to go hunting. The 1980 Nomit Mark penny could be hidden right under your nose, sitting in that jar of change you've been ignoring for years. So, don't just let those pennies pile up. Take a closer look and see what you might be missing. And hey, if you enjoyed this video and want more tips on finding rare coins or learning about hidden gems like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll be the first to know when I drop more tips and tricks on how to cash in on those pennies, or dimes, or quarters, or whatever else is hiding in your collection. Did you know that a single penny, yes, a measly 1-cent coin, could be worth a jaw-dropping $1.7 million today? That's right. You could be holding a tiny piece of metal in your pocket, purse, or couch cushions right now that's more valuable than a mansion. Stick around because today, we're talking about the 2020 D. Abraham Lincoln penny and why it's breaking the bank. Who knew Honest Abe had such expensive taste? So, what's the deal with this penny? First off, it's not just any penny. The 2020 D. Lincoln penny is a rare variety with an incredibly unique error. For those who don't know, D stands for the Denver Mint, where this coin was produced. In 2020, a small number of these pennies were struck with a die error that gives them a distinct and highly sought-after appearance. Collectors love errors, especially when they're rare. And this one has collectors practically throwing their wallets at auctions. Why? The error gives the coin a slightly double die effect on Lincoln's profile and some of the lettering, making it a numismatic superstar. It's like the coin version of a celebrity who accidentally went viral but in a good way. Now, let's talk money, because that's what we're here for, right? The 2020 D. Lincoln penny recently made headlines when one of these error coins sold for $1.7 million. That's like finding a pot of gold at the end of your sock drawer. The crazy thing is, these coins started out in circulation just like every other penny, but their rarity and that error bumped up their value faster than a meme going viral on the internet. Collectors and investors scrambled to get their hands on them, and the price skyrocketed. Imagine buying a candy bar with this penny back in 2020. You'd basically be trading away a house for a Snickers. Here's the good part. You want to know if you have one of these babies, right? First, grab your magnifying glass or a loupe. Look for the mint mark D under the year. Then, check for doubling on Lincoln's face or in the letters "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If you find something unusual, don't panic. Get it authenticated by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. And hey, don't go cleaning the coin. It's like an antique. The grime adds character and, in this case, value. One time, I accidentally polished a 1936 Buffalo nickel I thought was just dirty. It turned out I scrubbed away half its value. Lesson learned: never underestimate the power of dirt. Let me tell you a little story. A few years ago, I was helping my grandma clean out her old sewing kit. The one where she kept every button, random safety pin, and, you guessed it, loose coins. I stumbled upon a strange-looking wheat penny. It turned out to be worth $200. That penny paid for my first fancy dinner date. Ever since then, I've been obsessed with checking coins. The thrill of possibly finding treasure in your spare change? It's addicting. So, do yourself a favor. Go grab that jar of pennies you've been ignoring and start digging. You never know what you might find. All right, friends, now it's your turn to be the treasure hunter. Check your pockets, raid your piggy banks, and give those coin jars a good shake. Who knows? You might just find your own $1.7 million penny. And hey, if you love learning about coins worth money and other surprising ways to strike gold, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more tips and tricks coming your way to help you turn pocket change into big bucks.